How's it going, my curious bakers? Hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're making a very unique bread which contains more yogurt than flour. So let's go to the kitchen and get started. I have previously made a video about the use of various dairy products in bread making. Products like sour cream, buttermilk and yogurt. They are not only used for flavoring the bread and making it softer, they also have a special property, which is acidity. It has a tightening effect on gluten, so adding a portion of such an ingredient can make the dough tighter and stronger, which makes it easier to handle and allows us to increase the hydration. In my dairy product video, I did not push the hydration very much, but recently I wanted to do some experiments and to see how far it can go. This bread that you're seeing on the screen right now contains more yogurt than flour, but it will feel more like a 65% hydration dough when we handle it, and this effect is not unique to this recipe. You can use yogurt in any of your favorite recipes and benefit from gluten tightening acidity, but before you make your own, let me show you how it's done. Starting with the ingredients, we'll use some white bread flour, whole wheat flour, yeast, salt, some seeds, yogurt as the liquid, and some wheat bran for coating the loaf. You can take this recipe and adjust it to your liking. Swap the seeds, coat the loaf in something else, adjust the white to whole wheat flour ratio. The yogurt that I'm using has a fat content of 8%, and even when we take the fat content into account, this dough will have a hydration of around 100%. I mean, you have to stop and think about what a 100% hydration dough usually looks like. Keep that picture in your mind until you see what the fully mixed dough in this video will look like. I've been using wheat bran quite a lot lately to cover my loaves. It adds a really nice texture and it looks beautiful. I understand that not everyone is going to go out and buy wheat bran just for this purpose. So here's the alternative. Take some whole wheat flour and sift out the bran. And there you go, instant wheat bran. Here's the equipment that we'll use today. Final proof will be done in a bread basket, but you can certainly do it as a freestanding loaf on a tray. We'll also need a bowl for mixing, scales, a dough scraper, a temperature probe, something to slash the dough with. I'm going to use my razor blade, but anything sharp will do. A knife or a pair of scissors will work great for this job. The razor blade will be the most effective. It is cheap too, and only one of them will last you quite a few bakes. When it comes to the bread basket, there is an alternative. You can just use a regular bowl and line it with a clean tea towel. You could of course also bake this bread in a loaf tin. The Pullman tin I usually use will be perfect for this recipe, but if you use a regular 2-pound tin, I would suggest reducing all the ingredients by about 20%. When it comes to baking, I'll use my Lodge combo cooker. It is perfect for a loaf like this. And again, if you don't own one of these, do not worry. Just bake the bread on a tray. It'll still turn out great. Spray it with some water before it goes in the oven to stop it drying out too soon. It'll be just fine. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's begin. My kitchen is around 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit, so I warmed up my yogurt to about that temperature. This is a no-knead recipe, just like most of my recipes lately, but even though we are not going to be actively kneading this dough, it will still warm up by a couple degrees, and that's exactly what we're aiming for, around 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. It will be cold fermented, but you could bake this on the same day if you wanted to. Bulk fermentation at room temperature should take around 2 hours. Okay, so in a large bowl, combine the yogurt, the yeast, the salt, the seeds and the whole wheat flour. Give it a good mix to dissolve the salt, then add the final ingredient, the white bread flour. Grab your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. It will be slightly loose and sticky, but that is totally normal. Remember, more yogurt than flour. And just look at that. Does this look like a 100% hydration dough? I would not give it more than 65. Acidity works wonders on gluten. Okay, straight after mixing, we can cover the dough up and pop it in the fridge for 30 minutes. As you all know by now, folding replaces kneading in a no-knead recipe. But even when it comes to folding, this dough does not behave like it has even close to 100% hydration. All it requires is one single fold. And I'm sure you already know the drill. Dust the dough lightly with flour, release it from the bowl, pop it out on the table with the smooth side down, flatten it out, fold the edge over the middle, go around in a circle until reach point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and that's the fold done. Pop your dough back into the bowl and it's ready for cold fermentation. If you're going to bulk ferment at room temperature for around 2 hours, do the fold after 1 hour, not after 30 minutes. But if you're going to cold ferment it, fold it after 30 minutes and then refrigerate it for 18 to 24 hours. I left mine in the fridge for around 20 hours and it has puffed up and fermented very well. And now it feels even tighter than it was before. We could easily add another 50 grams of yogurt to this dough and it would still be extremely easy to handle. But I'll leave that experiment up to you. Okay, final shaping works exactly the same as the fold we performed earlier. Place the dough on the table with the smooth side down, flatten it out, fold the edge over the middle, go around in a circle until it's nice and tight, flip it smooth side up and finish tightening it against the table. You may have noticed that I didn't use any flour for dusting. That's because it's not necessary, it isn't sticky at all. But when it comes to coating the surface with bran or seeds, we must make it sticky. Wet your hands with water, then moisten the dough on all sides. Place the dough on the wheat bran, but before you continue, dry your hands. And now, roll the dough around and coat it on all sides. I'm using a tray here to not make a mess on my table. You can use the same method for other toppings too. Some seeds or oats would work really well here. Here is another advantage of using the tray. It makes it easier to return the bran to its container. We are ready for the final proof now, but let's clean down the mess before we continue. If you're gonna proof your dough in the bread basket, make sure that you place it with the seam side up. I know it doesn't look like much of a seam here, but you just have to pay attention and remember on which side it is. If you're gonna proof it on a tray, it should be the other way around with the smooth side facing up. My kitchen is a little bit cooler right now at around 20 degrees Celsius or 68 Fahrenheit. And of course the dough is still cold from the fridge, so the final proof took around 2.5 to 3 hours. If you're gonna fully ferment this at room temperature, the final proof should take around 45 minutes to an hour. During the final hour of fermentation, preheat the oven to 250 degrees Celsius, fan on, and that's 480 Fahrenheit. And also preheat your baking vessel if you're using one. Okay, once the dough is nicely puffed up, we are ready to bake. Get the hot pan out of the oven, remove the lid, drop the dough in the pan, and then score it. I decided to spray it down with water before I place the lid back on. That'll just give me extra steam, but it's by no means necessary. If you have a spray bottle, use it. If you don't worry. Let me quickly explain why I'm using the fan in the oven for this bake. The loaf will spend most of its time under the lid. This will give it a chance to expand as much as it can. Because the final part of the bake is going to be so short, I want the fan to blast the crust on all sides, which will make it color nice and quick. Okay, this bad boy is ready for the oven. Let's cover it up and pop it in there. As soon as you close the oven door, turn the temperature down to 200 degrees Celsius or 390 Fahrenheit. The initial part of the bake will take 35 minutes. After 35 minutes, we're going to remove the lid and then keep baking for another 15 minutes to finish the crust. This baking method will work for most large loaves. Okay, the bake is done. Let's have a look at our bread. And it looks great if I say so myself. It has a nice round shape, it's nice and tall. The wheat bran gives it a nice texture and color. And the scoring looks pretty good too. But looks are just looks at the end of the day. Let me repeat this again. This bread contains more yogurt than flour. It is so soft, light and bouncy. Because of the high moisture content, it will stay soft for days. And it has a beautiful, slightly sweet and tangy flavor. I'm quite excited to try this yogurt method for some other recipes. So what do you think of this recipe? Have you ever used acidic ingredients to your advantage like this? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this one, click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.